That awkward moment where your girlfriend becomes a zombie. Hashtag that awkward moment. Hashtag zombie. Hashtag help. Hashtag. Life After Beth is a slightly new spin on the zombie genre. It's kind of like the opposite of Warm Bodies. Instead of love blossoming, it pretty much goes to hell. Zach is a sad, depressed boy who wears black and sits by the pool like he's Dustin Hoffman from The Graduate. Okay, so his girlfriend died, so he has a bit of a right to be sad. So he's been hanging around with his girlfriend's parents and they're kind of grieving together and it's beautiful. When all of a sudden, oh no, his girlfriend is back and he's gonna get in trouble. I just realized how similar this movie is to My Boyfriend's Back. How did I not even realize? My Boyfriend's Back is a really terrible 90s movie that you should look up. So his girlfriend is back from the dead and their romance is rekindled, except Beth starts to act a bit zombie-ish. I guess she's just not the same girl that she used to be before she died. You know, with the hungering of the human flesh. Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Recreation is Beth, and she's really, really funny in this. I like her a lot. Especially when she goes full zombie. That's some of the funniest stuff. Her parents are played by Molly Shannon and John C. Reilly, and they're pretty funny too. John C. Reilly is actually giving a much more subtle performance than I was expecting, which is surprising because in this movie it kind of goes from really wacky to really subtle, dark humor. And that's really what kept me from really liking this movie. Sometimes it's a really dark, subtle comedy, and sometimes it's being really goofy. One of the more outrageous characters is Zach's brother, who is this cop who is gun crazy. So of course, as soon as the zombie apocalypse breaks out, he's just shooting everything in sight. So that stuff in the movie feels very broad, almost like really, really farcical, but then there's like long stretches of emotional drama, and it just feels really clunky. There are some concepts that I thought were really cool, like the dead come back to life, and at first all they really want to do is just hang out with their relatives and just like, what's going on? I'm cool. The old grandpa's back. He's just hanging out in the living room and it's just a shame he starts to hunger for human flesh. There's also a few plot points that don't really go anywhere. I actually thought that the movie would have worked just fine if Beth was the only zombie, but halfway through the movie, like, your standard sort of zombie apocalypse stuff starts happening. There's kind of a relationship between Zach and Beth's father that's set up at the beginning, and it doesn't really go anywhere. This movie was actually directed by Aubrey Plaza's boyfriend, and it's his first movie that he's actually directed. If the subtle humor was more prominent throughout, then this probably could have been more interesting, or vice versa. If the goofy humor was more consistent, then this could have been a lot more fun. Another thing that's difficult is we didn't really know who Beth was before she was a zombie, and when she comes back, she just kind of acts confused and in a dreamlike state. So it's really hard for the audience to form a connection between her and the main character. Now, it does have some funny moments, but ultimately I thought it was a little sloppy and even a little too conventional, so I give it a C. I hope if I ever come back as a zombie, my friends have the decency to just put me in the shed, you know, come and visit me, play some video games every now and then. Where have I heard this before?